The real story behind Nikola Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower. Nikola Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower was not just an experiment in wireless electricity. In fact, what Tesla claimed about this mysterious tower might not even be the full truth. Most people think Wardenclyffe was Tesla's failed attempt to transmit free wireless electricity across the world. That's what the textbooks tell you, right? But what if I told you that wasn't the real purpose of the tower, and what Tesla was working on could have changed the world in ways we can barely imagine today? Here's where it gets even stranger. Tesla wasn't just building Wardenclyffe for free electricity. Hidden in his patents and interviews are clues about a far more ambitious and controversial plan, one that his biggest financial backer, JP Morgan, tried to keep buried. So what was the real purpose of Wardenclyffe? Was Tesla hiding something bigger than even he admitted? Or is the story of the tower another example of a genius overshadowed by history? Let's dive into the untold truth about Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower and expose what you've never been told. For over a century, people have been taught to believe that Wardenclyffe Tower was simply Tesla's ambitious but ultimately failed attempt to provide free wireless electricity to the world. It's a story that paints Tesla as a tragic genius. Brilliant, yes, but too idealistic and impractical for his own good. Textbooks and documentaries reinforce this image, often focusing on Tesla's rivalry with Thomas Edison or his visionary ideas about alternating current. Wardenclyffe is positioned as the final chapter in Tesla's fall from grace, a monument to a dream that was doomed from the start. And let's be honest, it's an easy story to buy into. After all, Tesla's vision of free energy for everyone sounds like a fairy tale, especially when it's compared to the cold, hard reality of corporate interests and capitalism. Plus, the narrative fits perfectly with how history likes to portray visionaries, a mix of genius and tragedy wrapped in a neat bow. But here's the thing. The idea that Wardenclyffe was only about free electricity is misleading. Tesla himself said it was more than that. Hidden in his patents and writings are clear indications that he had far bigger plans for the tower. Plans that would have redefined global communication, energy distribution, and even defense systems. The misconception persists because it's convenient. Labeling Wardenclyffe as a failure erases the complexity of what Tesla was actually working on and downplays the factors that led to its downfall. But when you dig deeper, it becomes clear that the truth about Wardenclyffe isn't just misunderstood, it's been deliberately obscured. So why does this misconception exist, and who had a vested interest in making sure Tesla's real vision never came to life? Let's break it all down in the next section. Here's the truth. Wardenclyffe Tower wasn't just about free electricity. It was a revolutionary multi-purpose system that could have transformed the world. Tesla wasn't just building a power transmission station. He was laying the groundwork for a global network of wireless communication, energy transfer, and even defense capabilities. Let's start with Tesla's own words. In interviews and patents, he described Wardenclyffe as a world system. A concept that included not just transmitting power, but also broadcasting messages, images, and even weather data across continents. This wasn't science fiction. Tesla had already proven wireless communication was possible years before with his demonstration of radio waves. Wardenclyffe was meant to scale this idea on a global level, essentially creating the prototype for the internet decades before its time. Tesla's patents from this period reveal some fascinating details. For instance, one patent outlines a method to transmit not just electricity but information, essentially combining energy and data into a single system. Sound familiar? It's eerily similar to the technology behind today's wireless charging and global data networks, but that's not all. Tesla also hinted at something even more advanced, a global defense system using directed energy weapons. He believed Wardenclyffe could be used to project immense amounts of energy to any point on Earth, potentially neutralizing military threats without the need for conventional warfare. When you start looking at it from this perspective, Wardenclyffe stops being a quirky footnote in history and starts looking like the blueprint for a technological leap that could have put humanity decades ahead. The evidence is all there in Tesla's patents, his interviews, and the records of what he demonstrated during his lifetime. Yet, the mainstream narrative reduces the tower to a failed power experiment. Why? because this version of the story conveniently fits with the interests of those who benefited from its failure. Let's dig deeper into those interests in the next section. If Wardenclyffe Tower wasn't just about wireless electricity, why has the popular narrative stuck, and why didn't Tesla himself fight harder to correct it? The answers lie in the complex web of financial, technological, and even personal challenges Tesla faced at the time. Let's look at Tesla's funding. Initially, the project was supported by one of the most powerful financiers in history, J.P. Morgan. Morgan's investment wasn't out of altruism. He saw potential profits in Tesla's wireless system, so long as it fit into the business model of the day, which relied on controlling access to resources. Tesla, however, had a much larger vision. His world system threatened to eliminate centralized power grids entirely, making energy and communication freely available to anyone with a receiver. When Morgan realized this, he reportedly cut Tesla off, famously asking, "Where do I put the meter?" Here's the kicker: Tesla didn't stop. Even after funding dried up, he continued working on Wardenclyffe, refining his patents and expanding his vision. But without financial backing and with mounting public skepticism, he had little choice but to let the simpler, less threatening narrative, Wardenclyffe as a failed experiment in wireless power, persist. From Tesla's perspective, this misconception may have been a necessary evil. Admitting the full scope of his plans could have made him an even bigger target for the powerful industrialists and governments that dominated the early 20th century. After all, the implications of Wardenclyffe went beyond free electricity. The idea of a single tower capable of global communication, energy transfer, and even military applications was revolutionary and dangerous. By allowing the public to see Wardenclyffe as an ambitious but flawed idea, Tesla may have protected himself and his work from further sabotage. But this also meant that the true potential of his invention was buried under layers of misunderstanding, allowing others to dismiss his vision as impractical or outright delusional. So who benefited from this misconception and why? To answer that, we need to examine the forces that worked against Tesla and his groundbreaking ideas. If Wardenclyffe Tower had the potential to revolutionize the world, why didn't it succeed? The answer lies in the powerful industrialists and monopolies that stood to lose everything if Tesla's vision became a reality. First, let's talk about J.P. Morgan. While initially intrigued by Tesla's wireless power concept, Morgan's real interest was in controlling the infrastructure that distributed electricity. At the time, Morgan was heavily invested in Thomas Edison's direct current, or DC, systems and the growing electric utility market. Wardenclyffe's ability to bypass these systems entirely posed a direct threat to Morgan's empire. Morgan wasn't the only one with vested interest. The broader industrial sector, particularly energy and communications, relied on centralized, monetized systems. Tesla's world system offered decentralization, a nightmare for anyone profiting off monopolistic control. By cutting Tesla's funding and leveraging his influence, Morgan ensured that Wardenclyffe was never completed. But it wasn't just industrialists who opposed Tesla. Governments also recognized the potential threat Wardenclyffe posed. The idea of energy or communication being freely available to anyone was as destabilizing as it was revolutionary. Records suggest that Tesla's patents for directed energy systems, the precursors to modern laser and particle beam technology, raised eyebrows in military circles. It wasn't just a question of economics, it was about control. These forces combined to discredit Tesla and bury the true purpose of Wardenclyffe. But the evidence shows that his ideas were anything but impractical. What's fascinating is that many of Tesla's ideas have since been validated, though often under different names and with credit given to others. Take wireless power. Today, wireless charging pads for phones and electric cars are a mainstream technology, based on principles Tesla outlined over a century ago. And what about global communication? Tesla envisioned a worldwide network capable of transmitting messages, images, and data in real time. Sounds a lot like the internet, doesn't it? Then there's Tesla's concept of directed energy. In the decades following his death, governments and private companies developed lasers, radar, and particle beam weapons, technologies Tesla had already proposed in his writings on Wardenclyffe. The surviving records of Wardenclyffe show a clear link between Tesla's ideas and modern innovations. Yet history has relegated Tesla to the status of a mad scientist whose work was ahead of its time. This portrayal minimizes the fact that his ideas weren't just theoretical, they were achievable, and they scared the powers that be. Tesla's genius wasn't just in dreaming big, it was in his ability to see possibilities that others couldn't or wouldn't. But what's most striking is how much of his work was deliberately suppressed. Not because it didn't work, but because it worked too well. So why does all of this matter today? Because the suppression of Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower is a cautionary tale about the intersection of innovation and power. Tesla's story isn't just about a misunderstood genius, it's about what happens when revolutionary ideas threaten established systems. By dismissing Wardenclyffe as a failed experiment, history has allowed the forces that opposed Tesla to remain unchallenged. Imagine if Tesla's vision had been realized. We could be living in a world with free, wireless energy, global communication networks decades ahead of schedule, and decentralized systems that empower individuals rather than corporations or governments. Instead, we're left to wonder what could have been, and what forces might still be working to suppress similar breakthroughs today. The legacy of Wardenclyffe is more than a lost opportunity. It's a reminder that true innovation often comes at a cost. And if we're not careful, we risk letting the same forces that silenced Tesla shape the future in ways we may never fully understand. The story of Nikola Tesla and his Wardenclyffe Tower isn't just about a misunderstood genius or a failed project. It's about the larger forces at play when innovation threatens power. Tesla dreamed of a world where energy and information were free and accessible to everyone, but those dreams clashed with the interests of powerful industrialists and governments who thrived on control. Wardenclyffe was more than a tower. It was a symbol of what humanity could achieve when creativity and technology are untethered by profit motives. But its downfall reminds us of a harsh reality. Revolutionary ideas often meet resistance, not because they're impossible, but because they challenge the status quo. And here's the question we need to ask ourselves. Are we still letting the same forces dictate our progress today? From clean energy to open-source technologies, are we suppressing innovations that could reshape the world for the better? Tesla's legacy is a call to action, not just to recognize the brilliance of his work, but to challenge the systems that hold us back. The truth about Wardenclyffe isn't just history. It's a warning, and perhaps even an opportunity, to think differently about the future. If you found this dive into Tesla's true vision fascinating, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives into hidden history, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep Tesla's dream alive, one idea at a time.